Thanks for joining me. Nick, can you tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you've been working on, and then let's jump into your blog after that.
Sure. Hi. So again, thanks for having me on here. I'm Nicholas Papadopoulos. Folks affectionately call me Coach Nick. I engage in corporate organizational development work and also personal development work. And regardless if it's corporate setting or it's personal development, my purpose, my higher purpose is to inspire people to live life purposefully and to transform the world. That's always my North Star. Right.
So how did you get into that work? I mean, how did you come to be so intentionally focused like that?
You know, it happened, well, I want to say it happened by accident, but I don't really believe in accidents. You know, for me, you know, I think I've always been very purpose-driven, value-driven, you know, and I've done a number of talks about how, you know, purpose comes first, and purpose and culture, you know, eat strategies, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? And, you know, I started my career actually in sales. And so I started in sales and I started, you know, in these really big organizations and I did really, really well. And I worked up the ladder, right? You know, individual contributor, manager, director. I was a VP of sales. I was VP of sales for a startup out in Colorado for about 250 people. And company went public, so it was successful. I was still early in my career, so things were moving in the right direction. And I was bringing my sales team in for what would be a typical sales kickoff, get people inspired, rallied, being fired up and all that. And I brought them in and I was doing all the sales training at the time and all the leadership training for my leadership group. And my CEO came to me and he said, you know, I've got two questions or 2 points I want to make. I said, okay, shoot, but hurry up, because I've got to go train my people. One, I gave you budget to go and train your people. I mean, I gave you budget to go hire a company to do the training so that you're not doing the training. And I said, okay, again, hurry up, because you know, get to your second question, because I got to go train these people. He said, and the reason why I gave you budget to hire someone else to do what you're about to do is so that you could spend time with the board, you could spend time with our business analysts, marketing, et cetera, to help grow the business. And in that moment, I realized that what I was meant to do was develop people, develop teams. And so when the company got acquired, that really started the second half of my career, right? And I really transitioned completely out of sales and into leadership development, organizational development, a lot of work around culture and engagement. What happened simultaneously, and again, this is why it's not really a coincidence, the minute I pivoted that way and really started to spend my time on, again, inspiring people, you know, bringing people together to, you know, create awesomeness, I started to see a therapist. And I went to the therapist. My dad had passed away a few years earlier, and I had some unfinished business with my dad, right? And I was very unsettled. And I felt like I needed to have a breakthrough around my relationship with my dad. What I also noticed in my relationships with men is that I was definitely the guy who would say that women were my best friends.
Okay.
Right. I was definitely the guy who would say, you know, Kate, I'm going to come and talk with you, you know, 10 times before I'm going to go talk to one of my guys. Right.
That happens so frequently. Men find more comfort, respite in speaking to women, and they really have a barrier with their male friends. What do you attribute that to?
You know, I think a lot of it has to do with not looking weak or looking bad. You know, I think that, you know, when you open up and you start to ask questions from a place of inquiry, or you ask questions from a place of, I'm not sure, or, hey, why am I feeling this way, right? You're in this exploration. The likelihood is you're going to get raw, right? And you're also going to reveal things about yourself, or things will get revealed that you don't know what you don't know. And I think that men often have a really, really challenging time with admitting that they're lost in the car, right? If you think of you know, I just mentioned to you, I just drove from, you know, Connecticut back to Manhattan. You know, I'm not asking for directions, right? It's, you know, I'd rather miss this call than ask for directions, right? Because that's gonna be some, you know, sign of weakness or something that's less than inside of me. I think that men like to compete with each other, if you will. And so if I'm asking other men how to put together the grill, if you will, or more important questions like, hey, I'm having issues with my partner, I'm having issues with my kids, I'm having issues with myself fitting in. Well, now you, as my male friend or colleague, now have an edge on me. Over the years, the majority of my male executive coaching clients, because I'm an executive coach as well, I would say the main reason why they come to me is they'll say, I just need someone to talk with. And I go, okay, but do you have other outlets? He's like, no, I don't mean going to the bar and talking smack about my partner or my job or the politics at work. What I'm talking about is a real conversation. And I always think of this one C-level individual for a very large company, and he said to me, he said, look, I'm having a political war with another C-level member, and it's not going well. So I'm feeling very vulnerable in my job. My wife just had, we just had our first kid, and my wife and I have not had sex in, 9 months. My father is dying from cancer. I'm in over my head right now.
Yeah.
And he really just didn't feel like he could share any of that because he felt like somehow he would be less than his male friends. And that's really painful. You know what I mean? That he has to hire me in order to have that, what he would coin as a real conversation.
And that's the case for so many men. And I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, men are conditioned to be aggressive with each other as a sign of bonding and competitive with each other, right? One of the only places where it seems safe for men to really be connective is when it comes to sports and competition. And what's the nature of those games? Winning and sometimes aggression. And so I think for a lot of men, being connective in different ways feels really scary. It can feel really ostracizing and certainly not safe. So, I mean, this is a story that I hear a lot from men, and it's awesome that that one person reached out to you. And it sounds like it was really formative in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go back to the point I was making earlier, when I transitioned into doing leadership development and corporate development work, organizational development, I went to see this therapist, and I realized that there was an opportunity, along with changing my relationship with my dad, even though he had passed, you can still change your relationship with someone who's physically gone. I realized, that there was an opportunity for me to also be different with men. And so I remember seeing my therapist and saying to him, hey, why don't we start a men's group? This was probably about 14, 15 years ago. And he actually was against it. And he had a narrative about men as well, that men travel a lot. Men will not want to men can't commit in the way that women would commit to a group. The men are going to be flighty about the group. And I just kept pressing and pressing and pressing. And we finally started our first group. And I realized in that group, the first group we had was about 9 men. And I realized, and so we co-created it and we co-facilitated it at the time, and realized that, all the stories that I had about myself, my relationship to men, my dad, to your point, were similar across the 9 men. And so, since then, I've recreated several men's groups. For example, right now I have a men's group in New York that's been in place for about 4.5 years. I run men's leadership weekends as well, retreat weekends, men's leadership type of programs. So it's been a really fascinating journey in engage in this kind of process, engage in this kind of community where they open up and share and communicate and listen even very, very differently.